University.
Then it's like,
Yeah.
Call to order the regular board meeting for Pleasantdale School District Board of Education at 6 p.m. on September 17th, 2025. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Braca?
Here.
Mrs. Lunson? Here. Mr. Nash? Oh, sorry, he's absent today. Mrs. Walters?
Here.
Mr. Zona?
Here.
Mr. Mason?
Here.
Mrs. Marchione?
Here.
all right. So as is our practice tonight, we'll introduce our new teachers. We had a total of 9 new teachers this year, and our principals will take a moment to introduce the new teachers who are in attendance tonight. So Jenny, can we there we go. And we'll start with the elementary school.
All right, Mary Kate Myrna, have you stand up? Mary Kate joins us on our EL team. She has been a great addition. She and Sonia have jumped right in and have been doing a lot of assessments. Our students that come to us speaking a second language all have to be screened at the beginning of the year to determine if they need services or not, and that has consumed, I know, a ton of your time so far, so thank you for that. Mary Kate previously has worked as an EL teacher in Elmhurst and also as a transitional bilingual teacher, and I always forget is the district that you were in.
Chicago.
In Chicago. So she comes to us with a lot of experience, brings that experience here to Pleasantdale, and is already establishing herself as a valuable member of our team and enhancing the work that you do with students. So glad to have you on board, Mary Kate.
Thank you.
Christy and Haley are not here this evening. Christy joins our 3rd grade team. She previously worked as a 3rd grade teacher at St. Mary's School in Riverside. So again, you know, bringing in that 3rd grade knowledge and experience. She is a career changer. She switched during the pandemic. She found in the pandemic that her calling was actually in teaching. She had previously worked as a pharmacist. So she comes to us again with a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience in the world outside of education that only enhances what she brings to the classroom. And Haley Johnson is split between middle and elementary. She serves as a social worker working with the full-time social workers at both schools. She's a recent graduate. She attended Wash U in St. Louis for her undergrad and then earned her master's of social work from University of Chicago. She again, very experienced. She's done a lot of camps. Her internships have been very robust internships. She too has jumped right in and is balancing that, you know, juggle of 2 buildings. So we're really excited to have all of them on board. So welcome to all of you and Mary Kate being here. All right, middle school, it's all you.
All right, I'm going to start off by echoing that we are so excited to have Haley with us as well at the middle school. I'm going to start with Cheryl. So Cheryl is our new nurse, Cheryl Ammons. So she has hospital experience, she has school experience, she has so much experience that she's bringing to us. So we're so excited to have her expertise in caring, presence in our office, and she's been a great addition. We have Jane. We'll go with Jane next. So Jane, she's a 5th grade ELA in social studies. So she is a proud, and I emphasize proud, Pleasantdale alum. So she is super, super excited to come back to Pleasantdale to serve the community. She comes to us from St. John Across, so right down the road. And she's just been amazing so far. The kids are so excited to have her, and we're excited to have her. So welcome, Jane. And then I'll go to Amanda. So Amanda is our new special education resource teacher. So she's super collaborative. She's got a student-first mindset. She's built great relationships already with the team, and she has to work with all grade levels in the building. So we're just super excited. She came from LT as an assistant and is now with us. So we're just excited as well to have her back.
All right. Last but not least, we have Ellen Smith, who is coming to us with great experience in EL and Spanish. So she's filling a dual role for us. She's also working with some of our transitional Spanish kiddos. So when kids are moving out of interventions, they have a spot to go so then they can get to Spanish. That's always the goal, to have kids experience Spanish. So she comes in with some built-in colleagues at the elementary school who she knows and has worked with previously EL. So it's really a collaborative effort across both buildings and really continuing to enhance our EL program to support all of our learners those who know a lot of English and those who know not so much English, as far as we have had some newcomer students. So we're excited that she's been able to support them inside the classroom, and even having one join our softball team and working on some different things with him so he can participate. It's really great. Get them connected and involved right away. So welcome to Ellen. We have a couple other staff members. Claire Stone, our new school psychologist. We were excited to be able to bring on board our own school psychologist. She went to University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then an additional school that I don't have written down right now, but worked as a whole year-long internship in the Tinley Park School. So she's coming in with great year-long experience in K-8 education. So she's run the gamut and is already making a difference as we're preparing for our junior review meetings next week. Her mind is a spreadsheet, so it's wonderful that she can pull that data out and really start jumping in with it. We also have Lizzie Whitaker, who's joining us as our 5th and 7th grade Spanish teacher. She has already worked collaboratively with Ellen, who's in kind of a dual role, and with Jill Baronio, our longtime veteran Spanish teacher, making her classroom warm and inviting, focusing on kids and how they're engaged in the classroom, and really collaborating with Jill as a new Spanish partner. And I think that sums up all of our new staff members, but we're excited. We have just a great group, and they've already just assimilated right into our staff culture, so it's been great to have all of them. So I think we're ready
Great.
for...
And just like they started the day with a pledge, we're going to let,
Yep.
hopefully you guys can help us end the day. Your day. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, guys. Welcome. We're excited to have you. You have to say.
And you can love it.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you.
Oh yeah, blackboards for sure. Over the summer, we tried something new. We mailed a welcome to kindergarten packet to all of our incoming kindergartners. Think kids who are seniors in high school, they often get these recruitment packages from colleges. We use that as our kind of inspiration to put these packets together. They included welcome letters, a sticker sheet, a welcome to kindergarten pennant, and then a coloring sheet. We asked the kids to color their pictures and bring them with them to the first day of school. And so we have some examples on our bragboard, and the ones we couldn't fit on the bragboard we have on the board table. Happy to pass those around so you can see the amazing work that our students did over the summer. In addition to the welcome to kindergarten packet, we also did yard signs in we hand-delivered yard signs to all of our kindergartners' homes, which just such an awesome tradition. Super excited. We really want to make that an exciting experience for our kids, and the goal is to then do that for our 5th graders as they transition to the middle school. So.
Yeah, it was very successful, I can say.
Yeah.
Someone in the kindergarten. Yes.
Good.
Good idea. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
I always love driving around the district
And seeing
the
all the signs.
signs.
It's
Thank
great.
you.
Me too.
Thanks for doing that.
No problem. And thanks to Kathleen and her staff, because she created route sheets and had people grab signs and deliver them, so thank you for that.
My pleasure. All right.
All right.
Just as excitingly, we're going to move into item 3, the public budget hearing. I'll turn it over to Dave for an introduction.
Okay. As state law requires, the board holds an annual public hearing on the district budget. The board reviewed the proposed budget in August, during which projected expenses and anticipated revenue were discussed. The district is mindful of maintaining quality programs and sufficient fund balances to safeguard in case of a decrease in government funding, economic downturns, or urgent facility repairs, thereby preventing the need for borrowing due to uneven disbursement of revenues. Tonight, Mr. Griffin Sontag will lead us through the budget hearing, so Griffin, take it away.
All right, thank you. Thanks again for this evening. I'll briefly go through the final budget. There were no changes from last month's presentation, so I will show you some of the similar slides, answer any questions you have, and we will then vote on the final budget. So just a reminder of the summary of last year's budget, something that we need to show you. And you can see the budget to the year to date, and then the realized amounts. So both for the revenues in the green and the expenses in the red. So everything kind of came through as expected, which is not always what happens, but it happened this past year, and we'll take it anytime it does do that. Revenues then for this year's budget, and you can see a little bit of the history going forward. So again, revenues. There are a few areas, as I mentioned last month, that we're looking at decreases overall. That CPPRT money is projected to be down a little bit. Some of our categorical grants from the federal government scheduled to be down a little bit. State money is scheduled to be flat. And then today the Fed lowered interest rates, so interest income we would expect would be down just a little bit going forward. So we're in really good shape. We've been planning for kind of this. Some of my colleagues in other districts I know are struggling with the lack of COVID money and some of the programming and things that they did to help their students during that time, but now they've got to figure out how to pay for it or how to cut it because the money's not there anymore. So we're all feeling a little bit of crunch. I think we've done a great job kind of managing this and knowing where we're at, and the key to that is really just keeping our staffing levels where they need to be for our students. So then expenditures, kind of the same thing. You can see the budgets and how we have been increasing our expenditures. And I think though we're in good shape. And I'll show you the summary sheet in just a couple of slides to let you know where that is. But things cost more every year. Inflation is happening. We have a new teacher's contract that we're implementing and staff contracts. So all of that is great. All of that fits with what we're doing. And if we choose to do some larger expenditures, we'll spend into our fund balance just a little bit. But without those, definitely a balanced budget and even a surplus in our budget. So we'll show you that right here.
Just real quick, can you just go back one slide?
Yeah, sure.
That increase in transportation seems a little excessive. No, or am I making that?
Yeah, it might be so the transportation, we have a new contract with them. We went out to bid last year. We approved a new contract, and because the way we wrote the bid, that contract is going to be CPI for the next 4 years. They came in at a large increase the first year, and they were the only bidder. So there wasn't a whole lot for us to do. So that's a pretty large increase. We also have a few students that are being transported to alternative schools, and so yeah, you can do the math. They came in. I'm trying to think of what the number exactly was for that first year, but it was in the neighborhood of 20%.
But that's like a 43% increase from 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, from 2 years ago, and that's because, and I remember last year presenting this budget, and we talked about how there were some expenditures that were being carried over to the next year, so that came up. My hope is that we come in under that. Budgeting, you always want with the expenses, you want to be a little high, and hopefully come in a little underneath it. But I think with that increase, and then again some of these alternative transportations that we're doing, which we do get some reimbursement for, but it still is an expenditure. It's gone up quite a bit. What I'm banking on now is that CPI, we know already for next year is 2.9. So the levy will be 2.9. The increase for transportation will be 2.9 next year. So I would expect that now you're going to see slight increases for the next 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
So that's a great observation. Thank you. Summary then, and really you can see all the numbers by fund and where it goes from there. I think the key numbers here are the unaudited fund balance, so starting with this amount, and then if we didn't do any large expenditures, we're looking at estimated surplus of $516,000. So if we do, then we're just going to be spending down, and the number that I put in that was here. And so when you do that, you're going to go down by about 2.5 right there. So still a healthy fund balance. Still, if tax revenue is delayed, this is still a good number to have. Obviously, as the business person, I'm going to tell you the more you have, the better. But I feel very comfortable being able to spend this to afford kind of a first step in the process. So that's what that looks like. But operating, it's really important that we're in a surplus, not a deficit there, because that's harder to get out of. So we feel good about that and where we're at right now.
Has there been an update to from Cook County the property?
As far as like to receive those records?
Yeah, I'm now the West Cook Region Co-Chair for IASBO. So my organization of school business officials, and we had somebody from Cook County at our meeting on Thursday. And I started the meeting, I introduced him, introduced everybody, and then said like, okay, before you ask, the question you can't ask is when's the money coming? Because he doesn't know either yet. So you've read the articles or seen the articles. I know I've shared with Dave and he's shared with you. So they don't know. They don't know. So you may have noticed on this month's, the revenue is very thin, very little revenue coming in right now. And our expenditures, I mean, everybody's back. We're paying out full salaries now. So we're gonna watch that number go down. And if you looked at last year, 2 years ago, the same thing kind of happens. We go into deficit 2 to 3 million, maybe more. And then when the revenue comes in from the taxes, that will flatten out very quickly. So it'll just take a month or two where that will go from being 3-4 million like deficit, which is where we need to dip down, to that. But we've run the analysis for all the cash flow, and we can go into next year and still have enough money there.
Which we might need to.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't think so, but I think it'll be November, December based on what I'm hearing, and hopefully earlier. Great question.
Congratulations on your new co-chair position.
Thanks.
And, that's good.
Thanks.
I'm glad that we'll get that information.
It's
hopefully
it's
sooner
great.
than other.
It's great. I'm excited to do it. And being a principal, I found ways to be in leadership there, so I want to continue that within my organization. And I appreciate your support, and especially Dave and Jennifer's support with that. So, questions will be the next one. And then I use the same quote because I read it again. I was like, I can find another one, but
I do like
this
this
one's
one.
this one's telling me what to do.
I know, I like it.
All right, yeah, maybe you can use that on your personal finances as well.
Put it on a shirt.
Put on a shirt? All right.
Thanks,
I like that. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, Griff.
So can I get a motion to adopt the 2025-2026 school district budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bracco?
Yes.
Mrs. Lenzen?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Marchion?
Yes.
Okay, we need to have you guys all sign the budget sheet, correct? And that is in the brown folder.
Oh.
So there's a budget
Yes,
sheet,
please.
it has to go around the table.
Thank you.
What you look like.
I remember what we normally, but I don't see it. Now we see minutes and,
What you look like this, Mary.
yeah, I don't know if it is. Oh, is it hiding? Oh, sorry, it was just buried. No, it was just buried somewhere along the way. Okay. Then we sign in the
In the box in the middle.
yay though, right?
Yes, please, on
Correct.
the
On the
yay
yay
side.
side.
However you voted is where you
Okay.
should sign, yes.
Okay, right, and then here's Jason's, do we just?
Okay. Cool. Is it okay if we keep moving?
Yep, okay. Next, item 4, open forum. Doesn't appear to have anyone here to approach the board, so we will move into item 5, the consent agenda, which consists of the following. 5A, approve the regular meeting minutes of the August 13, 2025 meeting. 5B, approve closed session minutes of the August 13, 2025 meeting. 5C, approve payment of the August payroll and September warrants. And then this month Becky was our checker.
That's right. I did have a few questions. We're still running a deficit, but as Griffin mentioned, that's because we haven't received our tax levy yet. And then also something I just wanted to note is I saw that we upgraded all of our security systems, the Safety Go, is that what it's called?
Centegix.
Okay. And we spent like 30 grand on that, so it's great to know that we're implementing good safety plans and then keeping up to date with the software and making sure that it's running properly, so, something I wanted to know. That's about it.
Thank you. Next, 5D, declassified closed session minutes. 5E, approved September 2025 personnel report. 5F, approved section 5 personnel board policies. And 5G, approve overnight field trips per board policy 6.240. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Ooh. Oh, hey there.
Feisty.
Mr. Vaca?
Yes.
Mrs. Linson?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Oh.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
I don't,
Mrs. Marchione?
Yes.
Are they going like to Timberlake this year? Is that in Oregon, Illinois?
Yeah.
Oh, we thought it was Wisconsin.
want them to be switched.
Yeah, it's East Troy, Wisconsin.
Yeah, East
So do we need to
Troy.
make an amendment? This is
Or
odd.
that's where they used to
Oh,
go.
because it has Oregon.
Does it-
Yeah, we can
change
just,
that later.
just note that they're going to East Troy, Wisconsin, not Waukene, Illinois. There we go. Thank you, good catch, thank you.
Oh, no, that was, you can take it.
That's why you didn't second it, no?
Right.
It's thinking too hard.
All right.
Okay. Next, we are going to move into item 6, reports and discussion items. So I'm going to turn over to Dave.
Great, so we'll start with superintendent goals. Each year, the board approves the superintendent's goals, which become part of the superintendent's contract. It's been our practice. The district's strategic plan goals become the superintendent's goals, which then become the building's goals, which then become the administrator goals. So it's that kind of theory of cascading goals. This year, we put in place year 2 of our strategic roadmap, so the goals have been pulled directly from that document. Goals are in the board packet and have been shared with the board. Are there any questions that I can answer for the board regarding the goals? They should look pretty standard and stuff we've been talking about for quite some time. Cool. Any questions? Awesome, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the facilities update. So tonight, we have our third of 3 presentations on ways that the district can meet our space and facility and safety challenges. I look forward to sharing some options with the board and getting feedback as we move forward. As we did last month, we've invited our district architect, Mike Henderson, to help us help walk the board through these options. So let me just take my place here at the podium, and we'll jump into it. All right. So the first part of this presentation is going to be pretty review, and so I just think it's important to kind of go through and remember our priorities and kind of the why around the presentation and kind of why we're bringing some of these ideas forward. Again, looking to enhance safety and security at both of our schools with a priority on a second exit for the elementary school. Addressing space issues now and into the future. As you know, we're taking spaces, converting them into offices, using library annexes, classrooms, things like that, and wanting to make sure that we have enough space not only now, but in the future as we look at kind of a changing district. Expanding early childhood opportunities, having more slots for full day, more slots for AM is important for us. Providing developmentally appropriate school experience for our 5th grade students. Again, we've talked about 5th grade being at the middle school a little bit like a square peg in a round hole. Our staff does an amazing job, but again, taking a 10-year-old, putting him in that middle school environment not always doesn't work for all kids. And then allowing for program improvements at the middle school and the elementary school. So just kind of recap there, a little bit more of a recap, just what we talked about last month, right? So last month we talked about building on our footprint. This is review from where we were at last month. Again, looking at an addition here on the elementary school, kind of an 8 classroom addition here toward the back, kind of the end of the 1st grade wing, right? Again, part of that plan as we look at expanding early childhood is to move early childhood to the middle school. You have an addition and a renovation here at the end of the 5th grade wing going out towards 74th Street. So again, not new information, what we had talked about last time. This is a chart that you've seen several times as well, and I just put it in here that, these two options have kind of been taken off the table from the board, looking at minimizing programs or kind of taking space from programs that already exist, has been taken off the table. Same thing with putting mobiles out at the elementary school has been something that the board has not necessarily been interested in moving forward or learning more about. So tonight we're talking about what would a build look like if we were to build additional space, not on our footprint. So we have a unique opportunity. A couple parcels of land actually have come to our attention that are just at the corner of the intersection of 75th and Wolf Road, literally right across the street out here outside of the middle school. It's actually two parcels, one here and one here, and would, it's about 5 acres, and would allow us to build on it, right? And so what we brought for you tonight are 2 different options. So this first one is an early childhood option that has 14 classrooms. I'm gonna actually turn over to Mike at this point and let him kind of walk you through this plan.
The plan on both sides. This plan is similar to ones you've seen earlier as we adapted it to different sites. Again, 14 classrooms. A typical classroom is a kindergarten, early childhood size classroom with a toilet in it. So you kind of see these modules are paired and things going down. Kind of the multi-purpose rooms and large spaces like the gymnasium and administration are kind of on this site. But what's important on this site is that it has certain challenges. I'm not going to dwell too much on them. It would need a variance to build here. The site is zoned R2A, which allows schools, which is great. Their minimum sized site for school is 5 acres. This is slightly under 5 acres. The village has indicated that they would be supportive of it, but it is something that it doesn't fully comply. We have some setback lines. Kind of see here, there's a 100-foot setback. It's a corner lot, so there's another setback here, another 100-foot setback here. Rear yard and side yard setbacks are a little bit interpretive because it being a corner lot, not all of them quite apply. So we put the worst case scenario on here. So if you notice the kind of buildable part of the site is kind of like that if we have all the setbacks in place. But it fits fine. One of the other challenges, it's very low. So part of the site is in the floodplain. If you notice, 75th Street is higher than the corner of the lot. It goes kind of down into it. So these lines here kind of indicate the floodplain lines. They're different zones in floodplains. So that's something we'd have to investigate. We're currently building a school in Des Plaines, School District 62. That the existing school is in a floodplain, and we're doing an addition. So we have to meet certain regulations. The addition has to be above a certain number of feet above the floodplain and different things like that. So it can be done, but there's just certain. It's a little bit of a challenging site. So in this scenario, we're showing parent drop off, and parking kind of in the front, off of Wolf Road, bus drop off to the side, playground around the back, and kind of this would be like a synthetic surface playground and kind of a grassy playground towards the back. And a fire lane kind of going through here, something you wouldn't drive on, but something that would be more like a sidewalk kind of paved or coming around the building. But single story, and you can see it fits. 75th Street is right here, and we're sitting somewhere right around it. Now, any questions about what we've shown?
What does a zoning variance process look like? Would it have to go to the village, and then how just it goes before the village and they just have to approve it? I mean, we've kind of had a history of zoning
Great question. Ever since the state has mandated that schools have to comply with zoning for the past 8 years or so, it's been very common for schools to have to go before local zoning to get a variance. I've done a number of times where the existing school is a little close to the street, it doesn't comply. The building we're doing in addition that has the same setback, the village is usually very supportive, but it literally have to get a variance because it's, it doesn't meet their setback requirements. There's, height restrictions and different things like that that would have to be gone through. So the process would be, there's multi-step process. For a variance, you go through and show kind of the plan of the space, and so there's a kind of a zoning subcommittee, and then it goes, after that's approved, then it goes to next kind of level, and then eventually the village votes on the variance. So.
What's the timeline for something like that?
The process is usually about 3 months, somewhere in that range.
And you said it's a single story. Would it be built with the possibility that we could add on a second story?
It could be. That would require another variance. But I've recently done some schools in District 25 where we've designed it for us. These were additions, but we've designed it so a second story can be added onto it. Logistically, it's a little difficult to do. It's usually better if you can just add on the ground next to it. Because you kind of get into the school year a little bit with construction above, so it can be a little bit of a challenge. But the short answer is yes, you can design it so that a second story can be added to it.
I'm sorry.
Please, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, just to follow up then with that, with this current plan, could we add more to that first story then, like to your example, instead of building up, like would there be room to add on to the current? No.
So that's, with this one, the area that, you can see where the setback line is.
Yeah.
So we could design the building in a way that where we can maximize, where we could maximize the depth here, so that the addition happens from here over. So we can, if that's the strategy, we can approach it. These are just very early diagrams, just to see, so we know we have a workable plan. So the answer is yes, to some, within the setbacks.
So I think you said we needed 5 acres. It's slightly shy of that. So is there like a process in place? Like what would be, is it okay to still move forward from that thing? Oh. So it doesn't matter if it's a little bit less.
4.86. The combined is 4.86.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay to move forward.
Oh, okay.
It's not like they're gonna come back and say, nope, can only build a house.
That's what I was
Yeah.
wondering. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've been very supportive. I just
Okay.
wanted to identify that
I
is.
said that.
When you talk about floodplain challenges, are those engineering and design challenges, or are those monetary challenges?
Both. So when you have when it's in a floodplain, stormwater is always an issue. So you have to manage it in certain ways. So there's more stormwater to be managed, and there's always a cost to that. I can't quantify that.
Right. If the cost is X in a non-floodplain scenario, is it 10%, 20%, 50% more than that cost?
Yeah, no, certainly not 50.
Right.
It's I can't
Marginal,
quantify that.
yeah. Okay.
Other questions? So we also, so this is early childhood, our young student center. We also did a 2-story, a 3, 4, 5 center on the same site. So this is, the previous one was a 35 or 32,000 square foot building. This is a 53,000 square foot building. It plans much the same way. The big differences to this plan are the classrooms are physically smaller, So you have toilet rooms kind of in the hallway rather than in the classrooms, individual. And our gymnasiums are bigger. We have a lot more support kind of spaces, resource spaces, that kind of space. But again, we kind of planned it out much the same way. In this case, the gym kind of fits within those two setbacks. But again, we have the LRC, cafeteria, gymnasium on this side, an entrance, administration, and classroom wing, and the second floor just kind of sits right on top of that. So 18 classrooms. This one, a separate variance would need because there's a zoning restriction called floor area ratio. So it allows you to, it's mostly geared towards houses, but this is a residential district, so the FAR floor area ratio would apply. And that's if you have a lot of a certain size, you're only allowed to build so much square footage on a specific lot. So the floor area ratio in this case is 0.2. So if you have 5 acres, you can build 1 acre of building of square footage on it. So this exceeds that by around 12,000 square feet. So the floor area ratio is a little high on this, so we need another variance for that.
This might be a question more for Dave, but it's like 18 classrooms seems a little excessive, right? Most of our sections right now are at like 4, and even if we went up to 5, that's still only 15 maximum for 3 grades, right? So what's the need for 18 classrooms?
I think it's just the way that it was kind of designed and set on top of it. Again, trying to maximize the space, we can always go down, and I'd rather kind of have it be bigger and then pull back on the plan than have it be smaller and be like, oh shoot, we need additional space. Yeah, I mean, with a 3, 4, 5, we would need 15. We're projecting for 15 classrooms, right? Just for growth and things like that. Right now, we're at about 4 sections. Sometimes we're at 5. We anticipate moving up at some point to 5 sections, so that would give us, 15 classrooms would be the minimum. So give us a little bit of a buffer on that if we needed additional space. But again, you're right. We could get by with 15 classrooms, not necessarily all 18. The early childhood center could get by on 14 because it's 5 sections for kindergarten first, and then 4 sections for early child or for preschool.
And would we need a gymnasium in this build? Like, couldn't they utilize the middle school gymnasium?
I mean,
because it's right there.
I think we have to think through that, right? So if we've got 3rd graders that are over, 3rd or 4th or 5th graders that are over here, and it's a day in February, I mean, do we want them trudging out across the field to get to the gym in the middle school?
Let's do a tunnel. LT has one.
There actually already is one from here to this building. to that
LT
building.
North, yeah, they have
Not
one.
anything you'd want to go through.
Oh, well.
But yeah, I mean, we would. I don't know how we feel about having kids have to physically move across the street to get to kind of required courses.
On that note, is the intention with these kind of playground spaces, is that to be a shared space between the existing building and the new building? So like with the students that are residing in this building, are we taking them over there for recess?
So we're thinking they could probably have a playground right here, and then like basketball hoops and things like that over here.
So I'm saying like the kids that are in this build, that stay in this current structure, are they crossing the street for
So
recess?
as we create our plan, excuse me, we want to work something into the funding to make some improvements to our play space over here. Just having it open and having kids play kind of out in this area. It's no secret, I've talked about it here, that I don't love that. So we want to see what we can do as we're doing this plan to also address some of the play issues that we may have here, playground issues that we have here. And I put that in a category of safety and security, right? But yeah, I mean, we wouldn't necessarily have kids from here necessarily going to there for a recess either, especially because recess is only for 6th, 7th, 8th grade, 20 minutes.
Can you flip back to the previous slide for a second?
Sure.
So Becky's question was, can we set this so that you can eventually build a second story on? And I understand it probably becomes way more expensive to do that down the line. So is it an option to make the building more condensed and do 2 floors and keep more open, like do 14 classrooms over 2 floors and then keep open space to add on to a 1 level in the future if needed? Like, thinking about that strategically, is that, I mean, would that really change the cost so much up front to do that versus a 1 level?
Because of the age of the kids.
Right.
The state recommendations are that early childhood, kindergarten, and first grade are supposed to be on the ground floor.
Yeah.
So when you put them on the second floor, it doesn't meet that. You could literally be putting the kids upstairs. It's done in a lot of places, but that would be one reason not to do it. It's
Right.
not that it doesn't meet the codes, but it's better to have them on the ground floor if you can.
Because this is pre-KK first, correct?
Correct.
Not
This
second?
option.
Okay.
The
In my
other
head, I
option
was
is 3,
thinking
4, 5.
second and made sense.
Which
for
does
them
have
to
a
go
second floor,
upstairs, but-
correct.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. No. Oh, you.
Would this no longer be a through street?
That we'd have to figure that piece out. We don't, like, as of now, we are planning for this to be a through street. If there, through our conversations, it made sense for it to not be, then that could open up some possibilities for us.
Speaking of 75th, on the south side, if we were to build, regardless of which option, the power lines are above ground.
Mhm.
They're buried on this side in terms of safety and that kind of thing. What does that process look like? Is it ComEd? Is it us? Is it Burridge? Is it a combination of all of them? And is that a cost that we would incur?
The public utilities, ComEd has control over their power lines. They are buried in places, but it's when it's on the public right-of-way and the telephone poles, it's ComEd's call. So we have no control over that. Once you go from the power pole into your site, it's almost always underground. So it's possible that we might be able to work with them, but there's no real process for that. Usually ComEd likes to have power lines under because there's less tree damage and things like that. But again, it's not it's all ComEd's call.
With the second option, with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, I know this is kind of totally a little bit different, but thinking of social, emotional, and also like curriculum wise, like a third grader versus a 5th grader is very different. What if like it was a 4th and 5th grade center with like a science center or something? Like I feel like that is aligning more with when we did the survey, kind of meeting those goals that our community was looking at, and our other feeder LT districts have like science centers and we don't have one. D102 is getting a new science center with their new referendum. Like, I don't know if there's kind of some wiggle room with like what grades are going there, like what else you could do if.
Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are open, right? I don't think there's anything that says we can't do something like that, for sure. I mean, I think the one piece I would want to make sure we're not kind of painting ourselves into a corner a bit, and I want to make sure we're leaving enough open classrooms at the elementary school that if we had 3, 4, pre-K, 3, 4, and let me back up, pre-K, K, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at the elementary school, that we still had enough classrooms to have 5 sections per, and then 4 sections of pre-K. I haven't done the math on that one. I think it's going to be tight. It would be close, but I think there are all things to consider. I think there are lots of possibilities, lots of different exciting ways to kind of slice this, for sure.
I feel like it would leave us in the same position in the elementary because you're really just replacing 4th grade with pre-K. essentially, right? I mean, you're not gonna free
Well,
up a
you're
lot of
taking
those.
4 fourth grade classrooms, you're adding you'd have a net increase of 2 classrooms.
So I mean, how much of
So,
that storage
yeah, I
space are you
mean-
really regaining, you know? I don't know, to be determined.
It doesn't mean that we can't still keep that in mind as we look to, like, so remember you said, do we really need 18 classrooms?
Right.
We need 15 classrooms with a section that is a science or a STEM lab or something like that. That's where those other 3 classrooms go. So I don't want to discourage any great idea, which I think there are lots of them out there. So I think there are, again, rough drawing to see if things can fit on the space. I think if we move in this direction, I think those are really good and healthy conversations to have.
Yeah, and maybe this is a question for Dr. Van later with the curriculum, like what makes the most sense? Like
Yeah.
where would a 3rd grade class be best
Yeah.
placed, with the younger kids or with middle school, where
Yeah.
does that belong?
That's a good question. I mean, what I would say is in this configuration, I think there's probably more similarity between a 3rd grader and a 5th grader than there is between a 5th grader and an 8th grader. But all things to consider as we think about whether or not this is the direction that we want to go.
So ultimately, it's a building of, we're showing kind of a range of medium-sized building and a larger building on the site. And it accommodates, this is how that site accommodates these two buildings. And the makeup of what happens inside of it can certainly vary, or be phased, or figuring out how to phase it. So it's kind of a test to fit, and I think the site, because it's a corner site, it actually functions surprisingly well at 5 acres.
I have just another question. So, a few years ago, they were talking about widening Wolf Road and taking like spots from here. Would that affect the buildable space from, I don't know, if they expand it, there's gonna be, they were talking about tearing up this parking lot. So that.
Excellent question. As it turns out, the setback from a building from Wolf Road is 100 feet. So, Wolf Road's here, property line. If Wolf Road was expanded, the building line, setback line is way back here. So, if anything, it could possibly affect some parking. But
And maybe I'm explaining it, maybe I'm
I know what
interpreting
you're
this
saying.
wrong, but like if it's from the road and the road is, say, 20 feet.
I know exactly what you're saying. So I've been part of the planning committee for the Wolf Road expansion. Actually, we had originally thought that they were going to encroach into our property and take parking, like these parking
that's
spaces
what
out
they
here.
had said.
Right.
They're actually, I believe, and I maybe look to Griffin because he's part of the committee as well. They're actually thinking about going on the other side of the road and expanding the other way out. And actually have said, we don't plan on taking any of your parking spaces. So, now again, we're
So-
still 2 or 3 years away from this
Oh,
project,
definitely.
from a single shovel in the ground.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at today.
So hypothetically though, if it was on this side, so is it from, not the existing road, but where the new road would be, that would be, the setback would begin?
Oh, yeah, no, he's going from the
So
existing.
what's a setback
so-
for
so-
those of us who
so
don't
it's
know
a
what you're
two-
talking about?
Well, it turns out the property line is pretty close to where Wolf Road is.
Okay.
So this is the property line that, in which case the setback is from that point.
Oh,
to-
gotcha, so that won't change.
To that point.
Even if, well, they can't build on this side because that's,
Our property.
Well-
that would be that property. right?
Well, or they'd have to purchase property
easement.
from middle school or from wherever, if
Gotcha.
they'd use eminent domain or whatever that might be.
They would,
Okay.
But Mayor, to your question, it's just a
Thank
zoning
you.
requirement that regardless of what's built, depending upon the zoning, you can only build the building a certain distance from the property line. So if you and I are neighbors and we have 2 adjoining properties, I can't build mine up to your property line. There has to be a setback or a distance between our property lines from where I can start building.
Thank you. I don't, that word I did not know, so thank you, that's helpful.
So, yeah, so the, kind of the blue lines here, I know it's a little hard to see, but that says 100-foot setback to create this kind of dashed line. This is a side yard setback, which is also 100 feet to get here. And different corner lot requirements, again, we're looking at the worst case interpretation, which also has 100 feet setback from here to there. because of the configuration here, there's only I think 40 feet or 50 feet setback and 100 foot setback there. So this is what we determined as kind of the worst case of what zoning says setback is, with no variance, with no, completely complying with the zone, the way.
And so we theoretically could apply, well, in addition to the variance, we're gonna need one or two, depending upon the plan. We could seek a reduction in that setback to 75 feet or 60 feet
Absolutely.
or whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So I know it's a bit of a complicated kind of thing to talk about, but so I just want to make.
But theoretically, you could expand our buildable footprint if we could reduce the setback through a variance.
Absolutely. And you're also, there's also buildable setback even in here that's not developed here. So even within the setback requirements, there's still more space. It's just a little clumsy to use over there.
Do we need a separate bus stop area? I mean, couldn't we just use the existing one right here?
If it's a through street, no, right, because would we want the kids crossing?
Or we'd have to get a crossing guard or something.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, 'cause I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a lot of space over there, and just,
Good point.
But I think it, oh, I see what you're saying. You're
She's
talking
saying
about
up here,
that
the
little
bus drop
drive
off,
at the
yeah.
top.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
would you
I was
walk like
we
2,
could
3, 4, you'd have to walk them across the street to the bus every day?
3, 4, yeah.
Is that right then, if we don't have that? I'm just thinking of like implications, okay.
Or make, you know,
Okay.
if we take and make this a do not enter from
Yeah, temporary.
3:30 to 4 o'clock, or, you
Temporary
know,
cul-de-sac.
8
Yeah,
o'clock,
like when
8:15,
Casa
8:30 to
does.
9 o'clock, or what, you know, during those times
Yeah.
that kind of block off that section.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
But good point, really good point.
Yeah,
And a
thank
way
you.
to save some space to be economical, space.
So, yeah, so even if the traffic was moving to the east, if the buses were in the east, they could actually be, we widen 75th Street even to have the bus drop off, literally on the street. So many different options.
yeah, I would just look for like more options where there's like shared spaces, so that we wouldn't, like what Taryn was saying about like a shared play space, like the current middle school kids need a place to play outside.
That would be my dream,
Wow.
that would be my dream, to be able to have a really safe, shared space that, yes, that would be my dream. And so
it
we
seems more
would,
economical as well.
100%. Any other questions? Okay, moving on here, so just some details, and these are all things that we had kind of, well, maybe not the timeline. So 12 months to develop a plan, surveys, permitting, things like that. 18 months to actually build the project. Occupancy, looking at the 28-29 school year, so if you look at where we were with the last presentation, we were about a year ahead, because again, it's building on the site, you're building new because you're building an addition, but it's already an established site and things like that, so it moves a little bit quicker. Some of the details to consider, the site is workable, but we talked about it being tight, has some limitations, we need some variances, not only for the intermediate, but we're just shy of that 5 acres. Referendum would be necessary to cover the costs, and we haven't gone through this with a fine-tooth comb yet to really give you reliable numbers yet, so that's where we're at on that. And then it would serve as that final solution to any space issues that we have. We wouldn't be looking to come back in 5 years or 10 years or a different board and say, okay, now we need to build, another space, or we need to add on to this space. And then the other thing to consider is just traffic on Wolf Road. What does that do? I think we're gonna be okay, and I think with an expansion on Wolf Road, it's even gonna be easier to get people in and out and move traffic along Wolf Road, but I also wanted to just put it out there because I don't know. So fair to put it out there. And then as far as next steps, really, and we don't necessarily need to do this tonight, but at some point, kind of discussing the pros and cons of each option, and then determining the next course of action. Do we want to expand on our footprint? Do we want to build new, or do we want to hit the pause button on this work? Yeah, so very condensed kind of next steps there, and then of course, gotta end with a quote. So, try and do something a little bit different. Cool.
Awesome,
Thanks,
thank you,
guys.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. Make that softball.
What's that?
Make that softball.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, am I going?
Yep.
Sorry.
Curriculum.
Where are my glasses? All right, curriculum review cycle. So, Dr. Van and our curriculum council designed and implemented a curriculum review cycle. The purpose of this cycle is to ensure that the curriculum and resources we use in our classrooms meet the needs of our students and meet state requirements. Each year, we provide the board with an update on our progress and areas of focus for the year. Dr. Van, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, it's that time of year again. We'll talk about what we're doing in instruction. So, as I say, every year, our cycle is flexible. It's by phases. We move through the phases at the rate that works for each subject area that we're examining. And so I'm not going to read this to you, but same cycle. Nothing has changed with that. So where we are at is kind of interesting because we have very few curricular areas that are left in like phases 1 through 4. And a lot of them have moved to phase 5. So I'll spend a little time talking about what's going on in these phases. And then phase 5 I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about because it's all monitor and maintain and improve. So we don't have anything that's in the very beginning stages. Our K4 PE is, we have a scope and sequence, but we're kind of now looking at what's the best configuration for our students, looking at some different resources. So that's kind of starting to take hold this year. Our 6-8 math, so this one is actually really exciting. As you know, in 2017, we adopted and implemented the Bridges and Number Corner curriculum for Math Learning Center for grades K through 5. And then the following year, in 2018, we implemented Big Ideas for 6th through 8th grade with a supplemental resource of CMP3. Big Ideas, a lot of your children have had it, it's a more traditional math program. So it's teaching more standard algorithms, it's teaching more typical way of doing things that we're probably all used to learning math, while Bridges and Number Corner, as you know, focuses more on students' conceptual understanding, using different strategies, and really understanding what's behind numbers, building number sense, and then being able to problem solve in a variety of ways. Last year, Mrs. Ayala, our department chair for math, came to me and said, I think our students are ready for something more challenging than Big Ideas. And she would know, she teaches our 8th graders and she teaches our highest levels of math, and when she comes to me and says, it's time. And I suspected we were going to have this conversation eventually when Bridges had been in place for long enough for our math department at the middle school to see consistent change in our students' thinking and reasoning and understanding. And so we're here. So we are going to start looking at new math resources for 6th through 8th grade. And so we will be working with MCMI, which is the Metro Chicago Math Initiative through UIC. We have hired them to be our coaches for piloting new resources. And so Friday is our first meeting. We are looking at 3 different resources. EdGems, Desmos from Amplify, which is also the company that provides us our ELA curriculum, CKLA for K-5, and then another program called, or resource called Mid-School Math. They are all very different from what we have now. So they are more based on problem solving and real life problem solving, giving students opportunities to use more of those strategies that they've learned in the earlier grades, raises the level of rigor, which our teachers do, but having resources that can kind of push them forward is going to be a huge help for us, especially since our students are ready for it. We have more students than we've ever had in advanced math this year. We actually have 2 4th grade advanced math classes, which we have never had before. So we're ready for something more challenging in math in 6th through 8th grade. So really exciting. We'll keep you posted. I will be coming to you in the spring with some recommendation for a new math resource.
So this is only 6th through 8th, so the 5th
Only
graders
6th
are
grade.
not.
So 5th grade on level is staying with Bridges, and then the 5th grade advanced is
Right.
does 6th grade curriculum. So
Okay.
Mrs. Lauerman is also part of the pilot team, so she'll be piloting resources for 5th grade advanced classes because they do 6th grade curriculum. So, and we, Dr. Ayala, I just promoted her. Mrs. Ayala and I, we looked through. We actually picked 5 different resources for the math department last year to sort through and kind of look at, and we did pick a couple that were more traditional, and we took one look at them and we're like, nope. So these are all highly rated on Ed Reports. There are districts in the area that use all 3 of these resources, so we have good thought partners. 2 of them, EdGems and Desmos, are being used in the township. And then mid-school math is being used in Worth, which isn't too far away from us. And I actually just talked to their math coach today. So we've got a good community going too, so we're really excited to get that out. So that's like the big project that we're doing instructionally this year is the 6-8 math pilot. So more to come on that, but we're heading there.
Would we still use that Apex summer program?
Yes, so we would
Okay.
still have the same bridge program. We might make some adjustments based on what the new resources look like. But we'd still do that. We'd still do advanced math at a grade level above. So most of these programs do have these like accelerated packages where they take either a full year of one grade level and half a year of the next, or condense both grade levels into one. And we tried that with Big Ideas many years ago and do not like it, so we're gonna stick with our same acceleration path where we try to find as many students as possible who are ready for that challenge in 4th grade, and then supported study for those who become ready later on.
Apologize if this is a dumb question, but we're saying 6th through 8th math. Our 8th graders are often taking 9th or 10th grade math.
Yes,
So
good
how
question.
is that supported?
That's a great
here?
question. They
That
all
might be
have okay, so our algebra and geometry classes use the Lyons Township curriculum.
Right.
Algebra, all of these programs that we're looking at, resources that we're looking at, have an algebra component. So we would be able to teach algebra through the
same
new
program.
resource.
Okay.
LT is using Desmos Amplify for their accelerated algebra, so that's our algebra that we teach. So if we go that route, we match them. If we don't, we still have a good supporting resource that we can use, or we just use theirs. Geometry, we use the LT curriculum. So because we are teaching their course, we have to teach what they have. So that's how it's gonna
Because
go.
right
But yeah.
now they get the credit for Algebra 1, they take it here at
Yes.
Pleasantdale, so
Yes.
it wouldn't change even if we changed
Yeah.
our curriculum?
Correct.
Okay. It's the same curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll either wind up adopting what LT has,
Okay,
or we'll teach what LT has.
got it.
Yeah. And then geometry, we use theirs. So that was a great question, thank you.
Yeah.
Other areas that are kind of in that select and evaluate resources and implementing and training new curriculum. So in K-8, we are starting to look at some supplemental resources for K-8 art. Mrs. Morari and Mrs. Sabatini are looking at a program called Flex Pro, which offers professional development for art teachers, which is great because we're often trying to find things for them to do. You know, they're singletons,
Right.
you know, they either hang out with each other or go to different conferences, but you know, we really want to find more resources that help our teachers improve their practice. It's also what they're looking at is also being used by a couple other districts in the township too. And so we're taking a look at that. We met with the vendor a couple days ago, and she let us know that they are also developing a music curriculum. So it's a few years out from happening, but if this is a resource that we like, what we'll probably wind up doing is maybe trying to do the professional development piece this year with the intention of maybe bringing along that instructional resource next year, piloting some of this stuff this year. I just talked to Mrs. Morari about it this morning, and that's kind of our preliminary plan. And then hopefully that music component comes on pretty soon too, so we also have a really great resource. It's a wonderful resource. It's got like artist histories and it's all this stuff that our teachers can grab that they don't have to like search for themselves on the internet. It's all in one place, and it's people who love art, and it's designed by art educators, so I'm excited about that.
Just a question, because you,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't want to forget it,
Yeah.
because you said that was like 2 years out. Well, how far out would the math implementation be?
Oh, we'll implement next year.
That's
So we're
right, okay.
piloting this year. I'll bring a recommendation to the board sometime in the spring for which resource we want to go with, and then we'll implement the year after.
Okay.
And the pilots are going to be single units. So that's one of the reasons why we're working with MCMI. It's kind of a complicated, it's going to be a little complicated. We're basically looking at the entire math curriculum and figuring out, okay, which skill do we want, or which unit do we want to teach out of a different resource? And then again, which unit are we going to teach out of a different resource for these two pilots? So we're going to find the best fits and do it that way. So we're meeting on Friday to narrow down to 2 resources, and then we're meeting on October 3rd to design the pilots. And then they'll have some time on the October 10th Institute Day to start looking at those resources and getting the training they need and all that. So I think that's a good question too, thank you. So K8 Art Music, we're looking at resources. 5-8 STEM and K8 SEL, we are also looking at some different resources to use. Again, just trying to make the programs better. Mr. Ratcliffe has been just trying to find the best configuration for his 3 grade levels that make the most sense, and I think he's just about getting there now. So we keep trying new and different things, and I think he's kind of getting to a place where he's like, okay, now I feel like I have this fully articulated curriculum. So we're getting there. When it's somebody who's a singleton, I put a lot of trust I put a lot of trust in our teachers and say, like, you know your students, you know what's best, you know the standards that you have to teach. My job is to help you get all the things that you need to be able to do that, and use a process to do that, but he knows what he needs to do. K8 SEL, so right now we're sticking with second step for K4, just because we're second year of Bridges 3 and first year of CKLA 3, which I'll talk about in a second. So we don't want to plop a new SEL resource on them too right now. It's working, but we kind of want to explore some different things at some point. So once the dust settles on all of the elementary third editions we put into place, will look that way. But middle school is looking at some new SEL resources to use during WIN time. 7th and 8th grade are piloting a resource called Wayfinder, which goes all the way down to kindergarten, which also has these executive functioning components and MTSS components. So we're excited about their look at that and to see what comes of that. And then in the implement and train, so 6A ELA is in their first year of the H&H into literature resource, and so they're liking that so far. We're trying to find the right coaching and support for them, because a lot of times when we do these company-driven, getting started type professional developments, they're not very good. So we're starting to get to the point where we're like, why don't you just give us like a half day to just like peruse the entire site and like learn it for ourselves, and then we'll find a coach when we have questions. So we're taking that approach a little bit with ELA. 4-6 social studies, this is 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade using the TCI resource. And so we did a lot of alignment work this summer to make sure that 4th, 5th, and 6th grade are not overlapping on their subjects. And also when we switched 5th grade to the CKLA curriculum in ELA, it changed their social studies unit. So we wanted to get everything realigned, and now 4th and 5th grade share the resource because it's a K-5 social studies resource. And so 4th grade teaches a couple of units out of it, and then they send it over to 5th grade for them to teach the rest of it out of it, which is nice. And then 6th grade is using a couple different resources from TCI to supplement their curriculum too. 7-8 is in great shape. Made a couple tweaks this summer, but in great shape. And then K-5 literacy, so when we adopted CKLA second edition, nobody from CKLA or Amplify said, hey, we're coming out with a third edition soon. And so when we went with our 6-year adoption, that was not something that I knew to exist. We found out last year that a third edition does indeed exist, and that other districts whose colleagues I work with we're starting to look at that third edition. So we did some exploring to see what that third edition would look like. And we liked the way they reorganized the units. We liked what they took out. We liked that they had digital assessments. We liked that they condensed the units down so that there are 8 units with an additional research unit. We liked that they brought more novel studies into the program. And we knew we were bringing on 5th grade. So after talking with our grade level coordinators, we decided, well, actually they decided, I said, do we want to do this? Do we want to move to the 3rd edition? Are you sure it's going to, sure we're not going to go wrong? We're like, nope, we're just doing it. So we did. I said, do you want to go talk to your teams? And they said, no, we're doing it. And I said, great. I'll tell them to be mad at you when the time comes. Nobody was. Everybody is appreciative of the shift. So we did shift to the 3rd edition this year, which means we did have to purchase new teacher materials, but the student consumables, we switched out what we had remaining for the new stuff. So we're still 4 years to go with CKLA. So we're in the 1st year of 3rd edition, but we have 4 more years with it. And then we can choose to renew or not. And now when we adopt new resources, the first thing I ask the vendor is, do you have an updated edition coming out anytime soon in the next year, 2, 3? Because that's going to go into our decision of how many years we're going to do with you. So that's where we're at with K-5 literacy. So these are all just things I've already talked about: H&H into literature, our 4-6 social studies, our pilots for math in 6th through 8th grade, our K-5 implementation of the 3rd edition for CKLA, new resources in K-8 art and hopefully eventually music, and then piloting for SEL. So that's where we're at with stuff that's in progress. And then we're in phase 5 and pretty much everything else. And I apologize, I did not take out on your executive summary, it says K-5 literacies in phase 5, but I think our switch to CKLA 3 was so fast, I was like, oh, we forgot. We have to push it back a sec. But everything else on here is up to date, and it's just review, monitor, maintain, look at data. Is Tier 1 still working for our students? So when we're in this phase with so many subject areas, it allows us to do so much more with student learning because everybody knows what they're teaching, what the students need to know, understand, and do. And then we're able to take and collect data and use that to make improvements, not just to the core curriculum, but for students who are struggling. And so we're able to do things like this. We are able to redo our elementary grading scale so that all of our grade scales match. So for those of you who have had children at the elementary in recent years, we've had like a different grade scale for ELA and a different grade scale for math. And Bridges says one thing, Bridges says 75% and above is proficient, and ELA says 80% and above is proficient. And so we put together a report card committee this summer, and it really wasn't reporting, it's more grading. We put together a committee this summer and took a look at what would be best for our students, what would make the most sense, and what would get us the most aligned. So we have a new grade scale for K through 3. We have that above proficient piece, which is 96% to 100. We have proficient sits between 75% and 95%, and that's our 3. And then approaching proficient, 63% to 74%, below proficient, 62% and under. We started with the Bridges curriculum recommendations, and then we kind of made the adjustments to approaching and below based on what we see in ELA as well. K2 is going to give number grades in ELA and math, both in the skill area, so reading foundational, reading literature, reading informational, and this will be new, they'll get an overall number grade, so proficient, above proficient, approaching, below proficient, in each subject area. in ELA and math anyway. We didn't give grades in social studies and science regardless. Third grade's gonna give number grades in the skill areas and overall. So they will get number grades overall in social studies and science. They had been getting letter grades in the past, and it just didn't seem right. We had long conversations about it in the report card committee. We had somebody from every grade level and special ed and specials representing, and we came to the conclusion that an overall number grade in every area is a good transition into fourth grade. And we have the traditional grading scale lined up with our proficiency. So fourth grade's gonna give those number grades in the different skill areas, algebra, numbers in base 10, geometry, informational reading, reading literature. But then we also are gonna give an overall letter grade in each subject area, which kind of lines up. So like, if you're getting a 90 to 100%, you're on the high end of proficient, or you're above proficient. If you're getting a B in the class, you're right there in that middle sweet spot of you are solidly proficient. You're getting a C, you're at the low end of proficient, or you're at the high end of approaching proficient, and so on and so forth. So we feel like this is gonna make a lot more sense when we're reporting on how our students are doing in the elementary school. One more thing we added, years and years ago, we had these life skills on the report card at elementary, and somehow they went away. They went away before I got here, and I just did not bring them back. And so we had a conversation about it now that we're switching to Skyward Q. We were like, okay, great time to redo the report card a little bit. So we selected 3 work habits that are going to be on the report card under their homeroom. So the classroom teacher that they have are going to give them the grades in that, and we're just doing a really simple proficient, approaching, and below proficient. And really it's to prompt conversations with parents. So they'll preview this at the parent-teacher conferences, but it was something that our teachers felt strongly about having, and might we expand it more later? Sure, but we felt like this was a good place to start with work habits. So having all of this streamlined curriculum really allows us to do so much more, and we're just so much more aligned. It's really exciting. It's a great place to be. Another piece I wanted to let you know about that we did not talk about in June was, and that's the curriculum part, benchmark assessments. So now I'm getting into a little bit of assessment, which I don't usually do at this meeting, but we didn't have some things ready in June. So benchmark assessments, through our MTSS process, we need to benchmark 3 times a year, fall, winter, and spring. We use AimsWeb Plus to do that benchmarking. We give students probes in both reading and math. They get an overall composite score. There are different probes at each grade level. And we look at this data to see if our Tier 1 instruction is working for 80% or more of our students. And then we also look at this data to see if there are any students who are falling into a Tier 2 or a Tier 3, where they are not approaching that, where they're approaching that proficiency or they're below that proficiency, and do they need intervention. So we started benchmarking everybody last year. This year we're going to, again, benchmark everybody in K through 8. And we're going to start sending those reports home to parents. And one of the reasons we didn't before was because the reports were really confusing. AimsWeb has now come out with a family report that I'll show you in a minute that's going to be really easy for parents to understand. Our teachers didn't feel comfortable trying to explain these very complex graphs and bars and things like that, and some of you may have seen these before, but and we didn't want to cause more anxiety and stress to our families and send them another assessment. So now that we've kind of got everything stable and we know what we're doing and we have good reporting to do with it, we're going to send these reports home. I'm going to offer some virtual information sessions for parents for this fall administration so that I can answer questions and also explain what these things are and why we're using them. So that's gonna start happening in a couple weeks. We just finished benchmarking. Our data review meetings are next week, and we'll be sending home the Ames Web reports to parents. With it will be a letter explaining what this is and when these information sessions are so parents can join. We will also, for students in intervention, be sending home progress monitoring reports twice a year in the interim. So if your student is in a math or a reading intervention, in November you'll receive a progress monitoring update, and in March you'll receive a progress monitoring update in addition to these 3 benchmarks. The benchmarking data not only helps us to determine if our Tier 1 core instruction is meeting student needs and if students are in need of additional support, it just kind of helps us track how things are going at each grade level and in the district overall. But I do want to stress that we don't use this for advanced placement. These are short, quick assessments that are based on grade level skills, and they're really just checks to make sure that students are performing at grade level. So even if a child is like way off the chart on Ames Web, we have to look at other data sources because they are more extensive. So we're still going to use our COGAT and our MAP. We're still going to look at IAR. We're still going to look at how kids are doing in their classes or in their classroom assessments. But we are not going to use Ames Web for advanced placements. So I do want to make that clear.
So what grade levels will receive the reports?
Right now, 2 through 8. Kindergarten and first grade, the benchmarks on Ames Web do not necessarily match up with our classroom expectations. They are nationally normed, and they're based on obviously a very large pool of student data. So in kindergarten, for example, our expectation by the end of first trimester is 10 letters, 10 letters, 5 sounds. 10 uppercase, 10 lowercase, and 5 sounds. And then we raise that benchmark each trimester until we get to the entire alphabet. And do our students exceed that faster than our benchmarks are? Yes, but these are reasonable research-based benchmarks. With Ames Web, the kids might be seeing letters they haven't gone deeply into yet. So they're on Ames Web, they're gonna be seeing stuff in kindergarten and first grade that they haven't necessarily seen yet or been taught yet. And so those reports are gonna look really wonky to parents. And we have the classroom level data that can support where students are. So we use a combination of both of those things to put students into intervention. In first grade, oral reading fluency targets are like way higher than research says they should be. Ames Web has adjusted those a little bit, so actually like our first grade data last year looked crazy because the expectation was like 10 words correct per minute, and the Ames Web benchmark was like 21 words correct per minute in the fall. And so like everybody looked like they were a mess. They've adjusted that, so our first grade data actually looks pretty good, but I don't want to get in the habit of like sending, reading and not math, or something in kindergarten but not in first grade. So we'll do 2 through 8 to start with, and then our classroom teachers at parent-teacher conferences will talk to our kindergarten and first grade parents about where students are. These are what the reports look like. Really parent-friendly, really easy to read, really easy to understand. So those are coming home in a couple of weeks. All right, last thing, the very exciting thing is our 2025 state assessment data. As I told you in June, the state of Illinois has right-sized our assessments. I have a little handout for you that we're also going to send home to families when the school report card comes out that explains the proficiency levels and why they made the changes, and no, they didn't dumb the test down, as is being reported in a couple of newspaper headlines that I saw. They made our reporting much more indicative of how our students are really doing. We were having honors students in high school not being proficient on the state assessment, but we're in 12 AP classes and things like that. So
and they made it more consistent with other states.
They did. They made it more consistent with, thank you, Becky. They made it more consistent with other states, and they also made all of our state assessments consistent because all of them had different scoring mechanisms. So here we go. With our new cut scores, our IAR reading, our composite was 84% of our students proficient or above proficient, which is amazing. All of our grade levels just did a fantastic job. I mean, excessively high. Very cool. And then in math, 73% of our students were proficient or approaching proficient. It's again a huge jump. And we saw growth in just about every single grade level. And some of the grade levels we were a little more concerned with showed like double-digit growth. So super cool there.
Is that concerning?
What?
Like a double-digit growth? Like that seems pretty, like I'm just asking.
Oh, it's
Is
like
it kind
in
of like,
those
oh,
grade
that's kind
levels.
of a lot of growth, you know, like not average.
But
growth.
it is also pretty typical. Like sixth grade, we've usually seen the scores typically be a little lower. And then fifth and seventh, we've seen the scores be a little bit lower. And then when they get to the next grade level, they jump up. And that's been kind of a pattern. So, no,
Like
not
52
typically.
to 76, like that's over a 20-point jump. So
Yes.
does that
I don't know
make
if
you
it means they
question-
took it more seriously. I
Gotcha.
mean, it's a combination of the new cut scores
Gotcha.
and really like trying to hone in on getting kids to understand these four-part questions.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know, maybe like that year 7th grade.
No, yeah, I was just curious. It seems like a very big growth, which is wonderful, but also like, I don't know about that.
But we're saying that 52 was based on the old, like 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5, and then now the 76 is based on
Yeah.
these new. So there's
Yeah.
probably some.
There's some in there,
Inflation.
yeah.
A little bit of
necessary
inflation.
apples to
Yeah.
apples.
There's a little bit of inflation, but
Oh, it's a different grading format.
yes.
Oh,
yes.
I did not understand that. So sorry.
Sorry, but yeah, we have had double-digit growth before too.
Okay. No, it's great. I was just.
How do those numbers compare to other districts,
We don't
state
have,
data?
yeah, we don't have those yet, other than when I go to meetings with my colleagues and, like, they're like, wow, we wish we had your problems.
Which,
so
this
no.
is-
which I believe, but you know, an
We don't
88,
have-
but
we'll
an
get that
88
next
versus
summer.
a 95 is different than an 88 versus an 82.
For sure.
Right, so I'm just, yeah.
Well, we'll be able to see that in October when the state report cards are released.
Oh, this is public then?
Yeah, it's not public until the report cards are released.
Not necessarily
Gotcha.
something we present at a board meeting, but something that I can share.
Sure, yeah.
When are we sending
It's
these
just a
results?
raw number versus a comparison.
When the,
Oh,
when
that's
it
October?
totals, yeah, in October, yeah.
I mean, even with the changing of the standards, do you think like a 10-point composite increase is still, like, is that, I mean, like, cause if you look, there's like a 1 point, 3 points, I mean, that seems
Well, yeah,
really
I mean, yeah,
significant.
If you look 23 to, it's your 48, if you're talking about that
Yeah.
same jump, you're 48 to 52 and then 52
Right.
to 76.
Yeah.
It seems like. the
Oh,
new-
right, yeah.
It seems like the new guidelines
It's
have
like
helped out.
Yes.
Yeah, they help, for sure. I mean, they're still pretty.
Well,
different
they
based
look,
on the grade
they
levels,
make more
for sure.
sense, because the other, like, we've been looking at our MAP scores and our IAR scores for years, and you were always seeing our MAP scores in math, like, just, 80th percentile is an average, and then our IAR scores, like, weren't quite jiving with that, and it is a harder test. I mean, like, as I've said to you before, the ELA assessment, it's easy to prepare for. It's, you read 2 to 3 passages, you summarize the information, and you answer, 10 multiple choice questions and you write an essay. Students understand that. That's formulaic. They're seeing the same thing year over year over year. In math, they're constantly getting different questions, multi-step questions, different wording than what we see in our math curriculum. It's not predictable. So I'm not surprised that we perform better on the IAR and ELA. But I know our students' math thinking skills, when we look at our COGAT scores in the quantitative domain, and when we look at our MAP scores, we know our students are very, very high achieving. Everybody has been trying to figure out how in the world we can game for this math assessment, because everybody has the same, like, what do we do about this? We need to attack the questions, we need to attack the vocabulary, because the content we know our kids have. The other pieces, the state did do some really good work on, when they did this proficiency right sizing, they also came out with these benchmark examples and samples to success, and so we're gonna start looking at that information in October to see, like, what has the state brought out for us in math so that we can better understand how our students can perform even better on this assessment. So this is great for us. It's some of the top scores in the state, so, like, we'll doing really well, but it'd be nice if we could figure out how to interpret this assessment.
Yeah, because when you look at the math scores, it's usually flipped data, like
Yep.
your math is always so much higher
Right.
than.
If you think about it, on math, it's unpredictable
Yeah.
for ELA, right? They don't know what they're gonna get, but when we put passages in front of our students and ask them to answer questions and write an essay, they can do it no problem, and we know they can. So it's also about like what type of testing environment. And speaking of stuff that has been weird, I have the science assessment for you too. So the background on the Illinois science assessment is that I think like in 2018, 19, Illinois was like, oops, we're supposed to give a test every year in science. We don't have one. And so according to federal law, we have to give a state assessment in science. We don't have one. So first they took like Washington DC's assessment and sent it out to us and had us give it to 5th and 8th graders. And then they picked 5th, 8th, and like 8th graders as they're leaving middle school and like 11th graders as they're like getting ready to apply for college. So I'm not sure why they did that either. But for a while we were using someone else's assessment. There were many years when we didn't even know what was on the assessment. About 6 years ago, they finally gave us like, okay, here's kind of what to expect on the assessment. And then their scoring was all off too. So while you saw like the IAR scores get a little inflated, the science has gotten a little deflated. And now we have material that actually tells us like what's on the science test. What topics can we expect? What types of questions we can expect? So we're better prepared. I'm not worried about our science scores dropping a little bit. It's still pretty consistent with what we were performing at before, so we'll be fine. But I wanted to start reporting on our science assessment too, because it is part of our school report card. It is part of the federal government requirements. And those colors, that yellow and yellow, is the 5th graders, then the 7th graders, and then the 5th graders in 2022 who were our 8th graders last year. So just so you can take a second, they're consistent. We'll learn more about that science assessment as it comes along, but just wanted to make sure I shared that with you as well. So we're doing great. There's always room to grow. We're always striving to get better, and everything is a series of small things brought together. So it's been something to go. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving right along, class size update. Balancing class sizes and matching students with teachers who are the best fit is always a difficult task. I'm proud of our principal's work to create sections that are balanced by gender, ability, leadership, and diversity of learners. Our building administrators are here tonight to share more information about class sizes. So team, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. All right, so good evening. Thank you again for the opportunity to present this year's update on class sections and scheduling. So, as a review, we've seen this before. Your guidelines for each class sizes are as follows. The targets help us ensure class sizes remain balanced and manageable. They are preschool 15 students, kindergarten and first grade 20 students, second and third grade 24, fourth and fifth grade 25 students, and grades 6 through 8 26 students per section. So when developing our elementary schedule, we consider more than enrollment numbers alone. In addition to aligning with the board guidelines, we account for the delivery of services to students, the social and academic dynamics of each class, and data from tools such as kindergarten kickstart assessments and end-of-year assessments. These help us place students thoughtfully and create learning environments that are both supportive and effective. So if we take a look at our current elementary class sizes, preschool enrollment is split between 2 morning and 1 afternoon sessions with 25 students in the morning and 8 in the afternoon. Our kindergarten enrollment stands at 82 students divided across 5 sections with class sizes between 16 and 17 students. In first grade, we also have 82 students spread across 4 sections. However, 3 of these sections do exceed board guidelines. So to support these classrooms, 1 of the sections is co-taught, and the remaining 2 benefit from additional aid support during flex math, flex reading, and during the math and reading blocks. Furthermore, our English language specialists are working directly with these two sections. Again, we continue to monitor these classrooms closely to ensure that their needs are being met. We keep going on. Second grade is currently at 76 students, evenly distributed across the 4 sections. Third grade is our largest cohort with 100 students. And again, 3 of these are above board guidelines. So to address this, and I know we spoke about this previously, we divided the grade into 5 instructional groups for foundational skills. And those 5 sections are supported by 7 teachers. 2 of these groups are co-taught with one of our reading specialists. And in addition to that, we have established consistent enrichment support in both ELA and math. Wendy Vidal, our enrichment learning specialist, is collaborating with our 4 third grade teachers to provide in-class enrichment while also leading enrichment groups in both reading and math throughout the year. And then finally, 4th grade is at 87 students across the 4 sections, remaining close to those targets. Looking ahead, our focus will continue to be on planning for the future. We will continue to collect feedback from our teachers, monitor enrollment projections and staffing levels, and review our master schedule to identify both strengths and areas for refinement. We'll continue to use our tools such as Kickstart, benchmark and classroom assessments, EL screening, and all that is to ensure accurate placement and alignment of resources with student needs. So while class size targets provide us with important benchmarks, our overarching priority remains ensuring that every student receives the academic support, enrichment, and classroom community they need to thrive. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Becky? You want me to go?
Go ahead.
The only question, I appreciate the effort, especially in kindergarten and 3rd grade, the bigger class sizes, to make an effort to give them more resources. As those classes move on, so as kindergarten comes first and 3rd becomes 4th, is going to be reevaluated to then have a different approach for 4th grade? You know what I mean? Will that continue
Sure.
on through, because those look to be outliers in terms of size, but is that something we'll continue to do annually?
Yeah, certainly our 3rd grade is an outlier. I can go back to that.
Yeah.
And yes, this is something every year we look at. What are our projections? What are our current enrollments? What are how many new students do we have? It's a conversation Dave and I have all summer long, and monitor what is the best way. When we saw that 3rd grade was getting larger, we were again being proactive to look at what is the best way to meet the needs. Is it adding another section? Is it having our specialists work with the students and with the classroom teachers? And we work with our teachers too to decide what is the best way that we can support them with sections, but everything is fluid.
Sure, and I know there's no easy answer to this, but you know, a classroom of 20 could be big, a classroom of 30 could be small, depending on the makeup of that class, right?
Yes.
So I guess how actively are we monitoring the makeup of the classes versus just the raw numbers and board recommendations? And so
Again,
on?
that all comes into play. We look at what are the needs of the students, not just academically, but
And not just the needs of individual students, but how they then
Interact, yeah.
Yeah, how it all
Yep.
kind of, how the puzzle
Yeah.
pieces fit, yeah, okay.
yeah. It is a comprehensive review and ongoing conversations
It's like
throughout the spring and throughout the summer.
Jenga, Tetris, and a crossword puzzle and jigsaw puzzle all at the same time.
Yeah.
They do a really nice job making sure that all of that is taken into consideration.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
yeah, it is slightly encouraging that last year we had like 106 3rd grade or 2nd graders, right? So we're down to 100. So the numbers are moving in a negative direction. But yeah, I mean, I guess like over time, you know, they're always over the board guidelines every year. They're over the board guidelines. So it's just something to keep monitoring. It'll be interesting to see like what their data looks like compared to other, you know, classes, since we didn't really have any data to look at for their specific class this time around. you know.
The current third graders?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, because we weren't able to see like the Ames web for current third graders or IR obviously, you know, or MAP, so it'd be interesting to see if it is having any impact long-term, you know, or what, but.
I agree.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So as Dave already said, the scheduling consideration is playing Tetris and Jenga while walking a tightrope at the same time with the middle school schedule. It's a very fun puzzle, and when you get it right, it feels amazing. So we look at that, we look at the needs of our students, and as Dr. Van had previously said, the number of students in accelerated math does play an impact on the schedule where you can have math classes, so they can be in that accelerated math or that on-level ELA or the extended ELA. And so all of that is taken into consideration every year. And we start the schedule at the middle school in about January. It takes that long to keep tweaking and looking at the numbers and the projections and really trying to get it right. Not to mention, in the middle school, we have those students who cross grade levels. So our Tiger Skills, which is our executive functioning intervention class that some students are in, that it can be a multi-grade level class depending on the need. EL support depending on their WIDA levels and where they're at, if it's a newcomers class or a more proficient class. And then transitional Spanish, again, those students who have been in maybe an intervention or come to Pleasantdale later where they didn't have Spanish, we have that transitional Spanish classroom, which is 7th and 8th graders to help prepare them so they can excel when they go to LT or hopefully move from a 7th grader into the 8th grade Spanish class. So trying to align those classes across grade levels can be tricky. At the middle school, we always welcome the feedback of the committee. How is it going? What were the unintended consequences of the last schedule? And set some goals for what we have for the schedule in the next year. So we consider, like I said, the accelerated math, extended ELA, and then students in extended resource and having that ability to switch levels. So if they're a special education student and in more of a self-contained setting, how can we move them into that co-taught setting without having a huge schedule overhaul? So it takes a lot of careful planning and moving. If you've ever been in my office in the spring, you see a big whiteboard with things all everywhere, and teachers, I invite them in and we walk through and explain it, and they're like, oh, that makes sense. But it really is a team effort when we're looking at that. As we've switched our delivery service a little bit with our interventions, with the implementation of WIN, it is that flexible time where our interventionists in reading or math can pull students for a small group for maybe just a couple days where they need a little more support for those foundational skills, and then they can go back into their WIN group with that social emotional learning and executive functioning and be supported in their math class. So it's a very fluid group, and it makes it really nice for kids to get what they need. Not only can they do math and reading intervention, and during that WIN time, we're also using that for some EL, for our students who don't need that support of having that EL class. They can pull them for 20 minutes here or there just to make sure they're getting the right amount of support. And of course, student dynamics. Again, we want to set our students up for success as much as we can, but sometimes we only have so many sections, which we'll talk about in a minute. There's so many places kids can go. Looking at our 5th grade students, it is one of our larger classes, and knowing that our younger students may need a little bit more support. Last year we had 5 sections for math, and then we added a 5th section of ELA this year. So we have 1 in extended ELA and then 4 on-level, and then 2 accelerated math and 3 on-level math. It gives students a little bit more teachers to have, more places to go, especially with a larger class of 93 students, using the staff that we have. So we're always using the staff that we have. Again, you just heard Mr. Sontag talk about we need to keep that as flat as we can, still serving the students the best we can. So being creative in using our resources that we have. You'll notice all of the section numbers for 5th grade are all under the board guidelines of 25 students. And then you look at our sections for our specials, are a really manageable number for students who are in those classes where there's a lot of setup and a lot of supplies and a lot of moving around. So our art and our STEAM in particular, or STEM, sorry. In sixth grade, you'll see the extended ELA class is the only section that we have above board guidelines this year, and that's 27, and our board guidelines for sixth grade start at 26. That's also co-taught with our enrichment specialist, Dr. Merchant, so she's in that class as well. You'll notice that there are some 5 sections again of ELA at sixth grade, knowing that our fifth and sixth grade learners need a little bit extra support and a little more attention. And our math is at 4 sections for the grade level. And these are overall highlights. You'll notice that we have social studies. We do have 5 sections as well. It worked well with the schedule for the teacher and the students just to have a little bit more space in those classrooms, and there was an availability for a teacher to take on an extra social studies. So using those resources to support students the best we can. I know I'm going quickly, so just stop if there's a question.
I do have a quick question. If I heard correctly, you said we have offered transitional Spanish for 7th and 8th. How can do we not do that for 5th and 6th?
We don't need it at 5th and 6th because they haven't had enough Spanish in order to need to make up that gap. They can jump into a 5th grade Spanish class not having it before and be fine. There's a lot of review in the beginning for that. And 6th grade is when they start working on more skills as far as like conjugating verbs, and that grammar component of it is when we start in 6th grade. So they're not really behind. If they come in 5th or 6th grade, they come in 7th and 8th grade is when they need that support. It's I was a foreign language teacher, so I speak to that really well. Yes. Yes. And again, it's designed that way where it is a special at the elementary, and again, they can pick it up when they come to the middle school without a problem.
So if a student has never had Spanish class and then they start it in 5th grade, like it's not overwhelming to them, like I would think.
No, they start, you think of when you're learning a language, you start with your sounds and your letters, and you start with your vocabulary of who you know. You start with, it's more thematic based. You're talking about family and weather. Even though the students have had it in the elementary school, they're not as proficient because we have it every day. So there's a lot of repetition and at an older level.
Is there someone like at Tiger Times, like if they needed like additional support or something that could help?
Depending on the teacher, they could. We haven't had a strong need or a request for that, but if that was something that was there, we could probably find some help if they needed it.
The section sizes are pretty uniform, but they're not in some instances. Is that just a logistics thing?
It is. It depends on, again, each student may need something different as far as a class. And typically what we've done in the past couple of years is if a class is going to have a smaller section, it's typically later in the day for our younger students where they need a little bit more support. So if you're looking at the 8 for that ELA, it was a nature of, the big extended ELA class and the math class and how it all kind of shakes out with schedules. Also knowing we want to keep students maybe apart from one another in a certain section, looking at those dynamics. Yep. We try not to because, believe it or not, a section of 8 is not an ideal thing, especially ELA. You're talking about collaborating with each other and working together. So we do the best we can to not have that, but sometimes there's just that imbalance of needs. Thank you. 7th grade with 88 students, again, you'll see it's pretty uniform. We have some ups and downs. We have a section of science that's 10. Again, when we're slanted heavily in the accelerated math count, that does affect where they have, and our 6th grade science teacher teaches 2 sections of 7th grade, and our 8th grade science teacher teaches 2 sections of 7th. So getting those 2 aligned to where kids can get the class and the teacher's available to teach it. So again, we don't like going any lower than 10, even that small. But again, it depends on the particular needs of that student group.
And that algebra class is actually 7th and 8th, right? So
Correct.
It's 23, yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Any questions on 7th grade? Okay, and 8th grade. 8th grade is our smallest group of students, and you would think that would make it easier. It actually makes it a little bit more challenging. Yeah. Where you'll see, again, when we have so many students in algebra, so many students in geometry, and the extended ELA and how that plays, it leaves us with a smaller on-level group of only 28. So again, being creative with the staff that we have, which sometimes results into a small science of 8. We were able to this year work with our teachers and say, okay, we could have 4 sections of social studies, but they're gonna be lopsided again, depending on the needs. And Mr. Bush said, no, the 25 is a good sized class for social studies, and which also allowed him to be our Tiger Skills teacher, which he's done in the past and done a phenomenal job with. We really have a lot of students that are very well connected to him in the younger grades, which is nice to have that teacher connection. And we really worked, you'll see those smaller sections in some of the specials. We worked with our teachers to say, okay, we can have this or we can have this. So they had a lot of say in knowing these classes are gonna be smaller, but they'd rather have this than have a other period as assigned or be assigned another Tiger Skills class or something like that. They wanna be teaching in their content areas. So they, you know, when we see what's happening, and the schedule was done with students in the schedule by the end of the year before teachers left. So before the teachers would leave for summer. So we were able to have these conversations with them, like, here's what we have and here's what we can do. What's your feedback and what's gonna work best for you in your classroom?
So then just to follow up on my
Mhm.
last question, so there's actually 2 sections of algebra,
Yes.
right? And the
Mhm.
last slide. and the
Correct.
last one. Okay.
Yeah, there's a 7th grade, which is a 7th and 8th, and then there's an 8th grade.
So then the 23 in the algebra for 7th, that was mixed 23.
I
of both.
counted the 7th graders, like how many 7th graders were taking algebra. It's a little bit hard to like,
Yeah.
it's a split class, so I counted all the students who were in 7th grade algebra, all the students who were in 8th, just to, for ease of looking at it, how many kids do we have in algebra.
Oh, I see, okay, so
Mhm.
it's not like 23 in that one,
Right.
I got it.
And we do have the 15 students in geometry, and it looks like we will continue to have about a section of geometry based on the trajectory of where the students are coming in and knowing 4th grade, you know, half other grade levels in that accelerated math class. So that will continue, and we're lucky to have Mrs. Ayala who is able to teach that class.
That's so great that they don't have to
Mhm.
go to LT and like
Mhm.
take up part of their day to do
Right.
that.
Yeah, that was feedback we had from parents where, depending on when LT had the geometry class, they were missing things like student council in the morning, band, orchestra, choir.
Yeah.
And then we would have to schedule a PE section earlier in the day for them, so they weren't missing other instruction. It just made it a little bit more difficult, so having Mrs. Ayala there is definitely a benefit.
So it's not just a matter of distributing those 8, like in science and PE
No.
into it's
Yeah, because again, we're top heavy in the geometry and the algebra in a class of 76. We tried and, you know, thinking you could move them up to social studies, and then their social studies section is way over board guidelines. So it's always kind of a give and take of what you can do and what's gonna be good for kids. I know one of the concerns was with I'm looking for the PE section of 8. That's also aligned at a time with the 7th grade section where they can play games together. So it's not just 8 students. Mr. Dreyer and Mr. Belchner, I believe, is the other teacher. They combine so they can have that game type experience, and they can be playing with other students with the age levels being appropriate for 7th and 8th grade. Any other questions? Okay. So again, we will continue to look at the needs. We'll look at the projections of how many students are in those unique paths and what they need. Review the strengths. Look at the unintended consequences of when you even implement a tweak of what that could be, and always look to get better. And I think that's my philosophy on the schedule, is that it's never permanent, it's ever evolving and changing based on the needs of the students in front of us. So we're always trying to get better and know that it's never gonna be the same every single year. You know, we have a class of 76 that's graduating, we have another class of 100 coming in. How are we gonna balance that with the teachers that we have? Any other last questions? No? Okay.
The last kind of update or administrative report here is just that, you know, Section 6 policies are in your packet for board review. Any suggested changes that you see came directly from press policy. Any questions in regards to some? Mostly they're just review. There's not really a ton of changes to the board policy. Most of the policies in this section were updated either last year or the year before. So just some small tweaks and then reviews.
I was
No
gonna say,
typos this time.
Charles,
I was
I
promised
kinda
there was a
just
typo
think
for
you're
the-
gonna do
in
it.
5, but not in
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
Did you see one in 6?
No.
Thank
Our
you.
editor.
It's because all I had to do was type revise.
Officer position.
Right, I'm like,
He's doing it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll move into item 7, which is items for the next agenda. So we have the facilities update, approve the 2025-26 superintendent goals, approve curriculum and instruction board policies, elementary, middle school improvement plans, adopt the proposed tax levy, review superintendent evaluation tool, and review section 4 board policies.
Okay, I have one thing that I actually forgot to put on there was, we'll do a e-learning hearing. We're required to do that every 3 years to refresh our e-learning plan. We're gonna do a hearing that goes along with it, similar to the budget hearing. It shouldn't take long. We'll just review our plan, the board then.
What is it called?
E-learning hearing.
Thank you.
Next is item 8, open forum. We're good. And then we will move into closed session for, here we go, the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in an educational setting, or specific volunteers of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee, a specific individual who serves as an independent contractor in an educational setting, or a volunteer of the public body, or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired, and then also student disciplinary cases. Might have that memorized. All right, motion
So
to move into close.
Oh, I'll second. Did you read the land one?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Braga?
Yes.
Mrs. Linton?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mr. Zona?
Yes.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mrs. Martino?
Yes.
So we're closed at 7:56.
Great.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.